We live in
2515.
And thanks to a massive community campaign,
We are home to the first community-led electrification pilot.
in Australia.
We're going to help 500 homes in the community electrify.
1, our hot water.
2, cooktops. 3, heaters.
Connect them to smart energy devices, batteries,
And maximise our community's rooftop solar.
Why would we do that?
An electric home uses less energy,
It's cheaper to run, it's healthier to live in.
and best of all, if we do it together as a community,
It's easier, hopefully a little more fun.
And we can show the rest of Australia
how we can create our electric future.
today.
And it's going to be great.
Join us.
Join us. Join us.
The Electrify 2515 Community Pilot Launch! Oh my gosh, there's so many here, this is amazing. My name is Kristen McDonald, and as someone who was one of the team members writing on the back of napkins at a pub 2 years ago about plans for this campaign, I'm quite surprised to be on the stage of Anita Theatre right now in the same spot that Tim Friedman from the Whitlams was on Friday night, so please excuse me if I break out into a powerful ballad. I'm just very excited to be here. But before we begin, I would just like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands that we're gathered here today, the Wadi people of the Thirroul Nation. I feel incredibly grateful to bring up my 3 kids in this really, really special, beautiful and unique place. I try and teach them as much as possible about our traditional custodians, and I hope you join me today in paying respects to elders past and present. Now, before we begin, I'm just so surprised and amazed how many people are here today. Thank you for giving us your Sunday afternoon. It's really encouraging to know I'm not the only one excited about hot water systems, so thanks for joining me. Also, a really big thanks for those in particular who have supported us right from the beginning 2 years ago. Just out of curiosity, can you raise your hand if you were one of those community members who joined us at the library 2 years ago when we first started talking about this? Thank you so much. This clear demonstration of community support really was a decisive factor as to why this electrification pilot is happening here. So a really, really heartfelt thank you. Today I'm going to soon pass over to our keynote speaker, Dr. Saul Griffith. And then we're going to hear from John and Francis, who are going to give us a bit of the specifics of how the pilot is going to work. And we've tried to leave a decent amount of time for a Q&A session with John and Saul and the pilot partners. We're using Slido today to answer and ask questions. So there's a QR code on the screen. There's also one on your handout. So if you get your phone and you scan that QR code, you can pop your question on there. You can also give it a thumbs up if you see a question there that's already been asked or that you like, because then we'll know which ones are the common or the popular ones. But before we do begin, I just want to give you a little bit of a recap of how we got here for those who haven't been following us for the last 2 years. Firstly, there's this guy. He's our neighbour. He is an energy expert. He's a beard expert. He lived in the US for about 20 years, and him and his team at Rewiring America were really instrumental in co-designing the US Inflation Reduction Act. And that is the world's largest climate policy and largest climate spend. And Saul and his team were instrumental in helping it centre on household electrification. For those not quite familiar with what we're talking about when we say household electrification, it's really about looking at the machines in our homes and in our driveways that currently run on fossil fuels. So our cooktops, our space heaters, our water heaters, our cars, and getting them off those fossil fuels and replacing them with efficient electric alternatives powered by renewable energy in particular by rooftop solar and batteries. And Saul's research has really demonstrated the impact that our entire household electrification can make, not only to address our global climate challenge and reduce our emissions, it also does a really significant job at reducing energy bills. And as many of us here would know keenly, that we're in a cost of living crisis. So this is a really important piece of work, and also brings a whole range of other community benefits. So Saul came to us after being in the US and said, I also just want to test electrification in a real world community. So we can scale this, we can iron out all the bugs, and we can work out how to do this for every Australian more easily and more cost effectively. And he said, but I have no idea how to go about talking to the community or engaging them, or if they even care, or where we should do this. So that's when these guys came along. So Trent, Davin, Jesse, Ali, Laura, Tom, Tim, Jeremy, Francis and I, we have really been volunteering for the last couple of years to try and mobilise the community as such. So designing campaign plans, producing materials, producing surveys, videos. And this team, this core team, has also been supported by a growing number of other wonderful volunteers in the community that have really chipped in a lot of different ways. And we wouldn't be here today without the efforts of all the volunteers. So if you're a volunteer, can you just take a moment to stand up so we can all look at your beautiful faces and say a heartfelt thank you. Then there were you guys. So you guys are awesome as well, because we had 1,500 people complete our expression of interest survey, which we launched a couple of years ago. And the data that was collected there was really, really important in terms of our funding applications. And it also was incredibly important in demonstrating that this was a welcomed and viable site for such a project. In fact, when the Federal Energy and Climate Minister, Chris Bowen, came to Thirroul to announce the project, he was asked why it was held here, and he said that 2515 put forward the most advanced bid, and he quoted, I quote, said, "The community here is clearly all in and want to make this journey a reality. So thank you and well done." But it hasn't all been good. For the last 2 years, we actually have had a lot of ups and downs. The volunteer team has really supported Rewiring Australia, so that's the non-profit advocacy and research organisation that Saul founded, and has really been driving the pilot application funding processes. We've put in a lot of hours, both at night, weekends, during the days. Our big plans for what we were wanting to do at first was, this project was actually a lot bigger when we first went out to funders, but over time, it's been de-scoped, it's been changed, we put in hundreds and hundreds of applications for funding. We've approached a lot of different players. In fact, we had a high point when this is the then State Energy and Climate Minister, Matt Keane. He came to Thirroul to announce funding for 3 community electrification pilots after we had lobbied him for a while. That was really great news. Not so great news was when they got voted out and the new government didn't continue on with that funding promise. We're hoping that the new state government will join with us to fund some community housing aspects of this project. But Rewiring Australia really then focused on one particular funder, and that's Australia's renewable energy agency, known as ARENA. And to have the best chance of funding and delivery success of this project, they took on 2 great partners. And these 3 have been working for about the last year to really hone the funding proposal and what actually this project would look like. For those who aren't familiar with them, Brighte is a sustainable finance company, and they offer loans and home upgrades. And they were the partners with the ACT government for the Sustainable Loans program there. and a similar program in Tasmania with the state government there. So they have a lot of experience delivering practical projects such as this. And the other pilot project partner is Endeavour Energy. So Endeavour Energy here, we're all customers here of Endeavour Energy, but they're not to be confused with your energy retailer who delivers your bills and actually could be from anywhere. These guys are locals. They're the ones that are responsible for delivering the electricity to our homes and businesses. And Endeavour Energy are really interested in understanding and preparing for household electrification and the integration with our local grid. So, after all of that, after 2 years of ups and downs, of a lot of hard work by a lot of people, we had this bloke, he's the Federal Energy and Climate Minister, Chris Bowen, come down to our hood a couple of weeks ago to officially announce federal funding of $5.4 million via ARENA for the Electrify 2515 pilot project. And this really is significant because ARENA doesn't usually fund community-led projects like this. They love to fund those kind of big energy companies like retailers. So this is the first time that there's been a grassroots movement in a small regional community that has resulted in a nationally significant research project. So now we have funding, we have a professional outfit, we have a wonderful supporting community, and we have a team of volunteers to help get it off the ground. So I just want everyone to now take a moment, just a big round of applause for every single person who has got us through today. I now want to invite our keynote speaker, Dr. Saul Griffith, who is an Austie local. Saul, when you don't find him trying to change the world, you'll find him donating his time to Ostamere Public School, where he's teaching the local science students how to build and design electric go-karts. Best science lesson ever. Saul is amazing. Saul is an entrepreneur, he's an inventor, he's an energy expert. He co-founded Rewiring Australia as well as Rewiring America and Rewiring Aotearoa in New Zealand, where he really is on a mission to create local action so that it will drive global impact. And I want to thank you, Saul, for giving us the seed that planted and grew this wonderful community campaign and brought us all together. In a time such as right now, I feel like social cohesion and positive community action is as important as ever. So thank you, Saul, so much for everything that you've done for us. And over to Saul.
Too many people are going to say too many nice things about me, so I'm going to try and reflect some of it back. Kristen is extraordinary, and this project wouldn't have happened without her. But to give you a sense of her level of ambition, in her day job we asked her could you help organise 10 more communities to follow on what we're trying to do here so we can build what we're doing here into a movement. And she's sort of said, well, 10's fine, but why don't we do 100? So I really love that level of ambition. I've just returned from the US. I've returned with a limp. You'll probably see it. It felt like the election over there gave me a limp. But I really genuinely believe what Kristen said. Like, we're at a global moment where there's a lot of distrust at political levels and national levels, and I really think the way we're going to rebuild that is through communities. So it's extraordinary to think about it on a Sunday afternoon, to have people come to talk about electrification and electricity regulation and climate policy is extraordinary. Like many of you, I had a swim at Austie Baths this morning, and what I was thinking about was, does anyone notice that there's just a few more days a week where the water's coming over the lip on the ocean side than it used to be? I think we're actually living very much in a community where you can see the impacts of climate change already. We know that because of the sea level rise we've already seen. Anyone notice that it's warmer a week or two earlier? There's 15% more moisture in the air, so we're going to have one of the wettest summers we've ever had here, and that's a direct consequence of climate change. So we are really also a community on the front line experiencing climate change. We had the awful flooding earlier this year that is already costing the community something. So it's lovely in this community that we can think about solutions. As Kristen said, I spent 20 years in the US working on energy technologies. I was making solutions, new solar technologies, new wind technologies, electrification technologies. And that work culminated in me doing a study for the Department of Energy on the whole energy economy. How do you transform the energy economy from all the way from the coal mines and the gas to the kitchen sink? And that resulted in the book Electrify, and really it showed that 80% of the solutions for climate change are electrification. Globally, about 42% of emissions come from decisions made around the kitchen table. What you drive, how you cook, how you heat your water, how you heat your home. Probably 50 or 60% of emissions come from communities. So it's those decisions, but also for the local businesses and the small businesses. So you might think you're participating in a small thing, but this is a globally significant project that we are doing here that is addressing more than half of global emissions. I have in my notes here that I was now going to talk about project history, but I think Kristen did a better job than that. I think the only thing that I can add is it's taken a couple of years. It's been a bit of a headache working with some of the bureaucracies in Australia, but we've got there. I'd like to measure the project history in child growth. So we got them all the printed t-shirt in the right size, but you'll see a bunch of our children with their navels shown. So that's how hard it's been. Really, the other thing that Kristen didn't really say is I didn't approach that incredible set of volunteers. They approached me. They came to me, and I still remember they're like, we've been in the environmental movement forever. We don't know what to do. It's a little bit hard to take the children to a protest and throw paint at stuff. And so I said in reaction to that, well, why don't we try and be the solution? And to a theme that I'm really intrigued by at the moment, we've had 50 years of environmentalism that looks like shut things down. Shut down the coal plant, shut down the wind, shut down this, shut down that. And what we're doing here is really a new type of environmental activism. This is about building things, doing things, making real change in your community that's really positive. I should have finished that with a bit of more work. Thanks for the reminder. It really is. Not to make it all about climate, I'm writing a new book at the moment. You'd be shocked. It's about household electrification. And I interviewed a wonderful guy called Chris Kerr. He actually lives about 100k south of here, and he runs a company called Clipsal. You probably only know that if you're an electrician and you've looked inside your meter box. He makes all the little bits that go in that box. He also is an avid hydrofoil surfer, so he's a good friend. And I asked him, I was interviewing him for the book on the topic of electrification, and he said, look, I did it for the return on investment. I could tell that I was going to save money with the solar. I could tell I was going to do this and that and the other. And he narrates on, he says, but I knew I went too far when I over-optimized the water heater and my wife had a cold shower. And then she, took a pound of flesh, and I realized that I was doing it for a return on investment, and she was doing it for return on comfort and ease for the home. And then when he talked to his 3 daughters, they were interested in this family project of when do they get the solar, when do they get the electric vehicle, when do they do the water heater, because I was going through his journey that we're all going to go on. And his 3 daughters are doing it for return on climate. So I think one beautiful thing here is that we're now at it is a crisis in terms of climate, but we can now do this project with the winds of change behind us, and we can do it whether we're doing it for making our homes more comfortable, making our homes healthier, doing it for our children and for their climate, or even just doing it for the economics. It's now possible. So there's a really technical thing going on in this trial. Hands up the retired engineers, because many of you are probably as excited about this as I am. This is about watching the volatility of the electricity signal. Some of our electricity comes from Wombara. It's the substation up the end of Foothills Road, Buttonshaw all the way up the end. Some of it comes from Buchelin, and we're going to be monitoring the electricity loads between there and there, see what happens when we all add our loads. and can we make our grid more robust and more reliable as a result of doing this project. And I think the grid engineers believe it, I believe it, and if we show that, we will put an end to the Sky News headline that all this solar is going to break the grid. And we're just going to be like, nope, it actually makes it better and it makes it more reliable. And really, this is why this is a world's first. So you might think we're just Thirroul, 2515. The most ambitious version of a project like this was in Georgia last year with 50 homes, but not doing it sufficiently to actually really, it was a community of 50 off the grid. So this is the first time that we're really doing it on the grid, trying to demonstrate technically that we're going to improve the grid and lower the cost of electricity by doing it. The other half of the project that I think might be even more exciting and more consequential is about the economic effects on the community. So there's 4,700-ish households in 2515. Collectively, we spend $38 million a year on fossil fuels. You might not feel like that. We spend $23 million a year at our 2 petrol stations. We spend $7.5 million a year on our gas connections, and we spend about $8 million a year on electricity. Once we get to the future, so this project, we had to take the cars out because of ARENA, but a lot of people in the community, you can tell there's BYDs popping up everywhere. We're electrifying our cars. But once we get to the fully electrified community in a decade or so, we'll be saving about $16 to $20 million a year as a community. Because when you go to the gas station or you pay your gas bill, that dollar leaves 2515 on a one-way ticket. If we're paying the local solar installer, the local heat pump installer, people to maintain this electrified equipment here, if we're generating a good portion of that electricity on our own rooftops and on the rooftops of our commercial buildings, then that money stays in the community. The extraordinary thing about that, that's probably going to create not just that $16 to $20 million a year in savings, but probably around about 100 new jobs in our community. So I think this is the beautiful story that if we can prove that is true, is going to make this an addictive movement that takes over the world. And it's really a story of economic renewal based on communities. Yeah, I think this is actually amazing. So thank you for joining me. Maybe what I should say is I'm used to running experiments on the machines. This is an experiment I'm running on my community. I'm really nervous. Hopefully everything I said turns out to be true. If it doesn't, I'll move. I think we're going to do it. We're going to get there. And here's why. There was a lot of ambition to bite off and try and do this project. We initially started to try and do a $20 million project. We're doing about a $5 million project. But the team that was doing it and the volunteers are excited to do more. It turns out that a lot of technology companies that have the solutions for the future have been asking us, can we add some cars, can we add some vehicle chargers, can we add some special new stoves, can we add some special new batteries? And so hopefully we can bring a few of those offerings into the community. There's a very exciting project. Google would like to bring some advanced inverters and a community battery into the community that would help us lower the cost of storing our energy and also help deal with the technical aspects of the grid. Speaking of wonky and climate change, that was Danny Kennedy in the front. He actually flew all the way from America just to see this. Thanks, Danny. Thanks, Dan Cass. There's a young man who's not in the audience who's probably the most critical person to thank, Josh Ellison. He worked slavishly for 2.5 years. He probably read 2,000 pages worth of proposals, so thanks to Josh, he made it happen. Thanks to our volunteers, thanks to our neighbours, thanks to our partners, thanks to Brighte, Endeavour, Arena. I believe Alison Burns, who's our local member for Cunningham here, she's going to say a couple of words after me. Thanks to Alison. Rewiring Australia has been working with all political parties in Australia. We're non-partisan. But I do have to say, Alison, as our local Labor member, has really leaned into this project and been a staunch supporter from the beginning and has helped it get us over the line. So thanks to Alison. And I'd like to finish with, you know, you can get dark about climate and I want you to get dark. But then I'm like, my new thing I try to say is, get really concerned about climate change, and now I've got you ready for action. I want you to make 5 good decisions in the next 20 years. So if all of us make these 5 good decisions, electrify the heating systems, the water, the cooking, the cars, and solar and batteries, this is a huge part of the solution. So get worried, don't be anxious if you can't afford to do it this year, but make a decade-long plan, and if we all do that together, Australia really will lead the world. And I finish then with this really great idea of moving from an environmentalism of no to an environmentalism of yes. I loved the music and the soundtrack that they started with. If we're not throwing the best party, we're not going to get the world to follow along. So let's make this the best party. Thanks, guys.
Who's ready to party? Going to lead the dance section, right? Oh, okay, my mistake. Alison just wants to say 1 or 2 words as well. Thank you. This is Alison Burns, our federal member.
Thank you so much. And I would also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we gather here today and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. And I would like to say a big thank you to the 2515 community for helping to put the Illawarra on the map when it comes to renewable energy. Give yourselves a round of applause. Since I've been elected, I have worked really hard to make sure that the Illawarra is at the forefront of renewable energy. I want to bring every single opportunity that we can to our local workforce when it comes to clean energy. Kristen was saying that Minister Bowen came down just a few weeks ago. That was actually his 5th visit down here to the Illawarra. He's been down here talking about hydrogen, about wind, about electrification. I've also had Minister Ed Husick down 4 times as well. I've taken some of our local businesses and done a renewable energy expo down in Canberra. One of the first things I did to make sure that our local people and our local workers and our local economy can benefit from the opportunities from renewable energy. It is really important for our region to be forward-looking at what we can get down here. Projects like this help me to be able to do my job in Canberra, and it has been an absolute pleasure to work with Saul and his team. We've had a lot of chicken wraps and pink donuts down in Canberra, as I've had Saul visiting many ministers, and also the Prime Minister's office, the Treasurer's office. We have literally had hundreds of meetings, and it has been absolutely fabulous to work with this team here. So a big congratulations, thank you, and thank you to Bronte and her team. She's gotten me into a t-shirt that is a little less sleevey than I like to wear normally at the age of 50, but that's okay. But thank you to everyone that has made this project a great success. Thank you to Brighte and thank you to Endeavour as well, and Arena and the federal government with their $5.4 million. Thank you so much.
Okay, so you all probably actually care about the little stuff. So thanks, Saul, for the big stuff, but we're all here to know the who, what, when, where and how this pilot is going to work. So I'd like to introduce 2 members of our pilot operations team. We have Francis Vierboom. He lives in Thirroul. He is a dad of 3 beautiful children. Francis is one of the founding members of Electrify 2515, and like myself, we both came on to the team at Rewiring Australia about 1.5 years ago. Francis is the Market Transformation Manager at Rewiring Australia, where he works with government and business decisions to try and work out how this transition to electric technologies can go faster and more fairly. And we also have John Buchelin. John, also a father of 3, that's all who we recruit around here. He is an Austinmere local. John has a lot of extensive experience with carbon accounting, emissions reductions strategies, electric vehicles, leading teams in complex changes. So we were thrilled when John could come on board to lead the operations of this pilot. So thank you, Francis and John.
Thanks, everybody. I think you've got a lot of the big picture already, and we really want to get into the details because we're excited to start getting people involved in this project. I've already seen some of the questions coming in on Slido, and a reminder to jump in there, vote up the questions that you're interested in hearing about, and add your own questions in there, and we can get to them in the panel. But I'll try and get through this bit first, and maybe we'll answer some of those. We want to talk through who should apply to this program. We want to talk about what you can get and what to expect if you're involved in it. So we'll try and get through it quickly because we actually want to get to the Q&A stuff. It's a pretty simple set of requirements that we have of people to get involved in this project. The top one is being in this postcode in 2515 and having a house or an apartment here, having a property here. The one thing that I can clarify straight away is that this program will support existing houses. Unfortunately, if you're building a new house, you're not really switching out an appliance, and that won't be eligible for the program. But otherwise, as long as you've got a property here, if you're either an owner-occupier, or if you're a renter, or if you're a landlord of a property here, please consider applying. You need to be willing to get involved in the research because this is a research project. This is not just something we're kind of doing for fun, although it is going to be fun. It's a huge party, obviously, hot water system installation, and the research is what's going to help the rest of Australia do this faster. I like to say this is a dress rehearsal for a thing we're going to have to do 11 million times in Australia, is get dwellings upgraded to electricity. And we're going to do 500 of them here, and we're going to write a lot and research a lot about how we can make it better and faster for everyone to do it. And the third most important requirement is be willing to get off gas, because that's the thing that we're actually asking people to do. I hope it's very obvious why. Gas is a fossil fuel. There's a carbon molecule attached. When you burn it in the air, CO2 comes out and goes up. So we have to stop using gas. And I think that a lot of people here probably would understand that big picture, that's really important for the climate. But Christmas is coming really soon, and we've all got a few uncles and relatives that we're going to have to talk about nuclear and stuff with a lot, and there's going to be a lot of discussions coming up this summer. So I wanted to quickly review the essentials, which is number one, going to electric is cheaper. And just switching out your gas appliances for electric appliances is going to save you in the order of hundreds of dollars a year without having solar panels and a battery involved, just purely the cost of grid electricity instead of using gas. And the savings on not having to pay for a gas connection, which is a couple of $100s a year on its own. It's also better. Unfortunately, there are clear studies now linking childhood asthma to having a gas cooktop in the home, and it's a small link, but it's important. It's also a lot easier to clean off an induction cooktop. There's a lot more control you can have of a hot water system. You're gonna hear a lot about how much better electric appliances are, but I was one of those people that also, before I moved into a house with induction, thought I liked gas cooking, and moved into a house that had it, and I'm never going back. And I'm now renting a place with gas, and I've got the IKEA induction thing next to the stove, so I can actually boil water faster. I do want to talk about a third thing, which we haven't quite gone into, and I'm going to get a bit wonky, which is just that even if you don't care about those things at all, the gas network's going to go away. And this is not something people are talking about very much yet, but the gas network is a big, expensive asset that's owned by various shareholders in New South Wales, and is going to have to be wound down over the coming decades. And it may not go that well. It's going to be an expensive thing to do because there are shareholders that want returns from owning the gas network, and it remains to be seen who's going to pay for that. Because now that electricity is cheaper for everyone to actually use, and there's a clear direction, there's going to be an interesting transition period where less and less people are using the gas network, and there's less and less people for that gas network to charge to use gas, and that's going to keep making the process happen faster and faster. And I would say that. I'm standing up in front of you and I work for a climate change non-profit and I'm trying to scare you. But AusNet is one of the gas networks in Australia. They're in Victoria, and they recently put out their own projections for how they see the gas network going. And 2 years ago, they had this projection. This chart's a bit confusing, but the little green dot is what they expected to see, the number of new homes that are all electric, and the blue one is the number of homes that have a gas connection in the year 2027. This is 2 years ago. A month ago, they started asking the Victorian government, hey, we need to start getting our money back faster because it looks like people are not going to use as much gas in the future. Because now this is what they're expecting to see in 2029. They're expecting 85% of new houses in their network in Victoria to be all electric. And they're only going to be getting 15% of new houses, and that might even be an overestimate as well. So the gas companies are seeing this coming, and this is a really important problem that they're going to face. So getting off gas right now is actually a really smart choice if you don't care about climate change and if you don't care about cleaning your cooktop. It's a really good thing to get out of the way of the interesting economics that are going to happen to the gas network. I'm going to hand it over to John to talk through a bit more about what you can get.
Great, thanks Francis. So I think Saul and Francis have done a really good job of giving you the context of why you'd want to get involved in this pilot. So what can you get? You would have seen that there's the three main appliances. So the first one's the hot water systems. So there'll be subsidies for electric hot water systems and both resistance and the heat pump version. So heat pumps are obviously the most efficient, lowest cost, low energy way to heat your water. It also allows you, as opposed to what I've got, which is instant gas, to be more flexible. So when you're producing lots of solar during the day, you can use that energy to heat up your hot water system. Hopefully not having the cold showers that was referenced earlier. You can time it to make sure you've got that water ready to go. And that's a 24% part of your energy use within the home. So one of the biggest ways that you can have an effect on bringing your bills down and bringing your energy use down. So that's an example of a heat pump hot water system. You might have seen them that have got the units next to it as well, but they've now got them on top, takes up less footprint. The next item is the hot water, the cooktops, which I think we've talked about a lot. Faster, healthier, and easier to clean. That's something I'm very, very keen to do. I do often boil things over. They stick to my current electric one. Very hard to clean that off. Doesn't happen with induction. The next appliance is the reverse cycle air conditioner. So I think we're all familiar that that's a really good cooling system, but it's actually a really efficient heating system as well. So when you're comparing it to a gas heater, you're looking at 3 to 4 times more efficient. So you're using a lot less energy, and again, it's down to that flexibility. So your gas heaters can't really go on and off with your solar. It can't actually do what we're calling the smart energy way to run your home. So that's what the air conditioners will be able to provide for you. And then the final bit of equipment is the home battery. So obviously you've got solar going on during the day, not everybody's at home during the day, the battery will store it, let you use that energy at night when you get home, and then you're actually saving a lot of money because you're not paying those peak tariffs during the night. So unfortunately we've had a huge demand for batteries already. There isn't enough batteries for all 500 homes. So there is going to have to be some decisions made on the types of homes we'll put the batteries into for the research. But the good news is everybody can access the state subsidy that came through on the 1st of November. So that's up to $2,600 depending on the size of battery that you get. And the good news is with that subsidy, but also all other subsidies, it can be combined with the pilot subsidy. So for a battery with the pilot subsidy and the state subsidy, it's actually looking like a really, really great offer. So the final piece of equipment is what we're calling a smart energy device. So some people may know this as a home energy management system. We've gone out on a limb, we're trying to change it to smart energy device. We think it reflects what it does. So it goes into your wiring, it goes into your switchboard, and then you can see your energy use throughout your home, throughout your circuits, through an app on your phone or your desktop. And then we're actually going to be able to use that energy data to then feed into the research. So that'll be anonymised data, it comes to us, it's secure, but we can actually see all of the different changes within your home once you electrify, so that we can quantify how the impacts this is having, and this can go into the research. So the other piece of that is we want to do the things we've talked about earlier. We want to see how this device can help manage your home. So can it turn the air conditioner on when it's peak summer and peak solar? Can it make the hot water system come on? So you're not sending off, as Saul said, 5 cents, getting it your feed-in tariff at 5 cents, send it to your hot water system and use that like a battery as well. So everybody in the program will get the smart energy device fully subsidised. So that's the first piece that you'll get if you're selected to participate. And then the other devices and appliances, It is means tested, so if you have a household income over $78,000, then you'll be getting up to $1,000 per appliance for the 3 main appliances and up to $1,500 for the battery. So we think most people will get to that sort of $1,000 mark. It is capped at 50% of the installed cost. So when we talk about installed cost, it's the appliance, so it's the cooktop, but it's the fee to the cost to the electrician to put that in. So if you've got a simple install, that might only be $1,200, so your subsidy will be capped out at $600. And as I said, it's means tested, and we really put a lot of thought and effort into how do we make this accessible to homes on lower incomes. So if you've got a household income of under $78,000, those subsidies go up to $1,500 for the main appliances, capped out at 70%, and then it goes up to $4,000 for the battery, capped out at 70%. So there's a really big focus on getting a good cross-section of the community, and we think these subsidies are designed to help get that cross-section. There are different caps in place for high, middle, low income, so there is overall caps. And the other piece to note is we are conscious that not every home is ready for this from a switchboard point of view, so there's a little bit of subsidies available to do necessary safety upgrades to your switchboard. They'll very much be case-by-case basis, and that's when those caps will kind of come into play. But at an overall level, that's what's available. And what we want to do now is just show you some quick examples. So if you were, for example, a retired couple on under $78,000, you could get the 3 main devices, the 3 main appliances, the hot water system, cooktop, and air conditioner. And the pilot subsidies will add up to a bit over almost $6,000. The out-of-pocket that you'll pay will be $4,910. And when we think about these appliances, we really want people to start thinking about the overall operating costs. So these things will be in your home for 15 years, you'll be paying for them every month on your bill. And we estimate at the moment, with the gas prices going up, and if you've got solar, then you'll be able to get that sort of energy at a fixed price for that 15 years. So you can save in order of around $8,000 from those 3 devices, just going from gas to electric. If you look at another example of over $78,000, and they might just have a hot water system and a cooktop as the last bit of gas in their home, the out-of-pocket the pilot subsidies will come in at around $3,500. The amount paid will be $3,700, and then again the savings around $5,600. So you're all probably wondering, what does your situation look like? And we're pleased that just this morning we pushed live a calculator where you can go on and put in your situation and see exactly how much it might cost you if you were selected to participate in the program. And then that will give you an indication of what you can sort of commit to. So if we talk now about what to expect. So once you're selected, we're going to be looking at 2 stages of the program. So the first stage is 60 homes kicking off from December until April. So the deadline, if you want to be part of that first wave, is to get your application in by the end of November. And the homes will be selected and be notified with at least 30 days notice that you've got this 3-month window to come with us on the journey and start the installation process. Then we'll be moving to the main rollout stage, which will ask you for applications by sort of the end of March, but that'll be taking off from August and run until April. And again, there'll be 3-month sort of waves within that time period that we'll be doing the installations. So if you were selected, you'll receive an email from Rewiring Australia advising that you've been selected, and then we'll be handing you over to our project partner, Brighte. And we do have a really good support team with Brighte. Khan, she's a qualified electrician, so he'll be able to talk you through the process. What have you asked for? What is on offer? And also, who are the tradies that we've got waiting to work with you? So we've, again, made a really big focus to work with the local tradies. We think there's a lot we can learn from them, and we're looking forward to supporting them grow their businesses. And so you'll be able to get quotes from local tradies. Then once you've accepted the quotes, installations will take place and payment. Again, Brighte do offer finance. It's not a mandatory thing to take finance as part of the pilot. You can pay your own preferred way. But once that payment's come through, then you've got your fully electrified home, you've got the smart energy device putting the data back to us for the research, and then that's when the research piece takes off. So I'll just hand over now to Francis to close off and talk more about the research.
Great, thank you, John. So we want to get a cross-section of the community because we want this research to reflect our community and reflect a real mix of homes. One of the great things about doing it in a community is that we're not just going to enroll a couple of energy nerds who usually sign up for these energy kinds of studies. We're going to get a big range of different kinds of households. We want to get owners, we want to get different kinds of buildings, we want to get all kinds of incomes, we want to get all kinds of life stages and living situations. So please consider applying whatever category you're in. I wanted to talk about how we will select 500 homes to reflect 2515 by showing you a few of the stats about our postcode. We're about 80% freestanding houses, but we do have townhouses and apartments in the postcode as well, and we'll be trying to hit roughly these fractions when we select 500 homes. We've set the household income bands to actually reflect what is already recorded in the census for the bottom 25%, middle 50% and top 25% as well, and we'll be looking to hit this kind of mix of households as well. There's 79% owner-occupiers here and 20% renters roughly. This is a really important part of the research. It's one of the most challenging things in the process of electrifying Australia is how to get renters involved and how to make landlords and renters benefit from this and move quickly on doing this. I did see already that question come up on Slido, so I wanted to take a second to stop on this and say that we'll be working directly with real estate agents in the community to help them advocate for this program with landlords of properties that are here. We'll be helping them out with fact sheets and advocacy as well. We think this is a golden opportunity to take advantage of a subsidy to upgrade a home, so I think it's a really obvious opportunity to do that. We also want to get a mix of the kinds of employment situations in the community that are involved in the program. I don't know if this is going to come as a huge shock to anyone, but we are slightly overrepresented with retirees in the current set of applicants. But we have lots of different kinds of people applying so far, and if you're retired, you're extremely welcome, and please apply. We also want to cover, I want to talk very quickly about what it will be like to participate if you're one of the 500 households selected. It's not going to be a heavy process, but we think it will be interesting and it will be fun. There'll be, I think, 1 or 2 online surveys that we expect to do as part of the research. We'll be doing focus groups because one of the great things about doing a community project is we can actually get together in person, share our thoughts and reflect on experiences, and that's really hard to do in other kinds of studies that aren't in a single geographical area as well. We're also keen to facilitate people to start sharing knowledge and sharing tricks and tips that they learn about how to use their electrified home, because this is another really important benefit of doing this as a community. There's the initial research that focuses on the installation and the decision-making process of buying stuff and getting it into your house, and that's really important. There's a bunch of reports that we'll be writing about the installation experience, but there's also, for 2 years, energy usage data that we're going to be collecting, and we want to see people looking for ways to use their energy more smartly in their home over the course of that time. So I was just talking in the foyer about what it would take to make your old dryer turn on at 11:21 in the morning, based on an app or something like that. And you can buy a little robot button presser thing on Amazon if you want to go really hard at that stuff. So come and talk to me about how to set up your dryer from the 1980s to be a smart dryer. Potentially we can make it work. But you might have a Wi-Fi dryer from the last few years as well. That'll be great too. So that's the kind of thing that we are interested in understanding and researching, because that's what's going to make the energy system flexible and move demand to line up with all the cheap solar energy that we get from our rooftops and make the whole energy system cheaper. And that's the great outcome that we can get for the whole country. I think that's all we wanted to say, and we've got lots of questions to answer. But this is a fantastic initiative. I'm super proud. It's another one of those people that was at the pub 2 years ago to have a room full of people excited to do this, and such great backing to do it. So thanks again to Arena and to Alison and the federal government for their support, and to our partners Brighte and Endeavour for joining in and helping us make this a reality. Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you, Francis and John. I'm sure you have lots of questions, and thank you for those who have already started submitting on Slido. We're going to get to that very shortly. I'm going to ask the panel speakers to come up on stage, and while they're assembling on stage, I'm just going to bring us to clearly the most exciting part of the evening, because let's face it, who doesn't like a lucky door prize? We have a couple of things to give away. We have 5 copies of Saul's fantastic book, The Big Switch, to give away. I think he has signed it, or if he hasn't, he's around and you can ask him to. We also have 5 Electrify 2515 t-shirts, and you may notice that they're all a bit bespoke and odd in a way, but this is because the wonderful volunteers, I love these, they go to op shops, they scour op shops, they buy blank t-shirts, they take them home, they wash them, they iron them, and we get them locally printed. So there really is a sustainable product and a community initiative. So if you don't win one, you can buy one for $10. Here's the odd socks. And our top prize is an electric barbecue, and I was really hoping Saul might be able to wheel one out in a sparkly dress. Saul, no, he's not here, but this is kindly donated by Glen Dimplex Australia. It is an extreme electric portable barbecue and guarantees a sizzling cooking experience that surpasses gas barbecues. Dan Cass, our Rewiring Australia's co-founder, actually has one and can attest to it. He was talking about his grilled aubergine the other day. And I'm pretty sure that whoever wins this is going to invite every single one of us over for a barbecue. So just leave your address at the front. So everyone, take a look under your seat. If you have a ticket, at the end of the evening, you can claim your prize with the t-shirt stall, the volunteers there. And why don't you put your hand up and be like, woo, I won! Like, so we can all feel like an RSL meat tray raffle gone well. And panel speakers, can you bring your chairs up to the front? Congratulations, winners! Quite like I belong on some sort of slideshow there. Alright, now this bit of the evening is about you. Lots of your questions. As I mentioned, there's the Slido is how we're answering the questions and how you get a chance to ask. We may not get a chance to answer them all, but we do endeavour to answer all your questions, and after the session I'm also going to explain the other ways we're going to be communicating with you and how you can have your questions answered. But I'm going to sit in the middle, and I do want to assure you there are women on the operations team as well. We have Kate Minter, Elsa Evers, Jane, but we have a wonderful men here today, so thank you. Okay. Before we do that, I just realised I haven't actually introduced 2 wonderful people beside me, sorry. You've met Saul and John. To my right is Douglas Chapman, and he is a representative of Brighte, our partner. Douglas has a career in marketing. He's worked for 12 years in renewable energy. He leads the non-lending services of Brighte and marketing there. And has a lot of experience in household electrification delivery. So we're really excited to have Douglas. And to my left is Ben Dufty. Ben Dufty is the Network Operations Manager for Endeavour Energy for our region, so for the South Coast region. Knows this area really well and has been working at Endeavour Energy for 16 years, so he can answer a lot of kind of the grid-related questions. So thanks. Before we begin on the questions, I'm just going to ask Douglas to take a minute to explain the role of Brighte in this pilot.
Thank you. Thanks, Kristen. Brighte is really excited to be part of this because it's actually very much the vision of Catherine McDonald, who started Brighte, which was to make electrification affordable and accessible for every single household in Australia, and this is a real-world example of that. We're building at the moment a platform that enables people to be able to understand, then select the products that they want to use, and then we help them with the best accredited vendor or installers in this region that will be able to deliver what they want, and we also help with finance for those that need finance options in a very affordable and easy way.
Thanks, Douglas. And Ben, I'm going to ask the same of you. So what exactly is Endeavour going to be doing in this pilot over the next 2 years?
Absolutely, and first off I just want to say what an incredible turnout. It's finally nice to see a room full of people as passionate as me about the energy transition and where we are moving forward. So thank you very much for turning up today. Endeavour Energy has been powering the Illawarra region for over 100 years, and we've been proudly doing so, providing safe and reliable power to your communities. This is such an important initiative for Endeavour Energy. We've got a very strong strategic objective around decarbonising the grid by 2035. The learnings from this pilot will enable us to have real and true real-world understanding of how a fully electrified or a partially electrified neighbourhood will look for us, and the differences in the grid technology and the grid layout and any changes that we'll have to make moving forward. So it's going to have a really positive impact on our strategies and our plans moving forward, and then hopefully, as Saul's touched on a bit earlier, the policies of the energy industry and networks as a whole to deliver this energy transition.
Thanks, Ben. And while you're there, I might drop you straight into it because we haven't
Fantastic.
heard as much. So we've had quite a few questions wondering about the role of batteries in this project and in general. So we've had people ask, is there going to be a community battery? What's the interplay between community batteries, home batteries? Maybe you could even touch on the role that electric vehicles will have as batteries going forward. So what's the role of batteries, both within this pilot but also looking forward?
So, as part of this pilot, obviously our initial focus around Electrify 2515 is around the appliance transition and the impact of that on the network. There will be a battery installed as part of this project, and that will be slightly different to some of the other batteries that have been rolled out across the Illawarra region. The battery space plays a few roles within the network space. So the first, we have network support batteries. So those types of batteries actually prop up the grid in areas where there may not be enough capacity, or there may be too much solar penetration. So it helps us, make our grid more reliable for our consumers. Things like community batteries, as you mentioned, they are a partnership with the community to try and soak up a lot of that solar and additional energy that's produced during the day, and then when the sun's not shining and the wind's not blowing, try and utilise that energy at different times to sort of balance that grid load out of an evening. There's a few, aspects to that question. The first being electric vehicles and how they will play into the grid in the future. There will be in the future a number of vehicle-to-grid type batteries. So essentially, what that will mean, and there's various sort of theories about how that will play out. But essentially, you'll plug your car into your home of an evening, and then that will help power your home when that solar isn't generating electricity. So there are sort of a number of concepts around batteries which will play a part in this transition, and will play into the mix to make sure that we get that load balance right.
Thanks. So did you want to add, what's your thoughts on batteries and our future grid?
I'm super nervous sitting next to Ben because when I break it, he's going to have to fix it. But there is a bit of a nerdy question about batteries. What's going to be the cheapest battery? Is it going to be the battery in the car, the battery on the side of the house, or some battery on the grid? The car battery exists anyway, so in some respects that's going to be pretty cheap. Hopefully in this project we figure out how to bring down the costs of putting the batteries on the homes. Personally, I'm super excited about the community battery. The team that's working on Electrify 2515 is going to work with me. We're pursuing, there's a bucket of $20 million of community batteries that we're going to go after. Hopefully we get enough of that money. There's what's called 5 strings or feeders that feed the electricity to all of our homes. We'd like to put a community battery on each of those, and we'd like that to do what Ben would call grid services, so that's make sure the voltage stays the same. Everyone solar sends their electricity back to the grid with a different phase. We're also hoping to work with Google and Endeavour on using those batteries to clean that all up and make the electricity cleaner and more reliable. So I've just given Ben a double headache. But that's one of the ways that we're going to make this project more important to the world and really prove that. The exciting thing when you look at the math, that community battery should be a quarter or a third of the price of the batteries on our house. There's economies of scale, you don't have to ask for a permit, it goes in one place, a few things. It'd be really great to prove that that is true. There's a legal and regulatory and technical problem in Australia. Actually, nobody can own the community battery right now, basically. He's not allowed to own it, you're not allowed to own it, the generator's not allowed to own it. I think this regulatory win that we're winning by virtue of being a community means that the community might be able to own that battery. If we do that, then we will have a cheaper way to use our solar and a cheaper way to share that back with ourselves. That'll have to be done in a partnership with Endeavour, and in fact I think on Tuesday your CEO and I are going in to fight for changing the rules so that someone can own that battery in a sensible way to make sure that the community benefits.
What appliances are going to be available? Is everyone going to be able to choose, or do they just get the one? How's the whole kind of application for appliances and installers work? So if you could please touch a little bit on products and installers.
Sure. So as part of the project, we've been working behind the scenes now for about 6 months on looking at the equipment range, ensuring that we've got a really solid range of equipment that covers both performance and economy, so affordability, and then also making sure that we've got local community installers who are ready, willing and able to participate in the program and be able to offer those pieces of equipment and the installation of that at affordable prices for everyone.
Okay, great, thank you. There's so many great questions. Just a quick one, maybe this can go to you, John. It's on if there's a federal election coming next year, if there's a change of government, what happens to the pilot? Does the funding stay? Does it still go ahead? Or will it potentially evaporate?
Don't recall seeing that in the clauses of the agreement. I think we're good. There's
Yeah.
not a state government switcheroo that can be played on us. So yeah, no, this project is going to continue on regardless of the government changing, and hopefully, yeah, we see that even improve across the period as well.
Yeah, great. And while you're there, John, I have a question on, in terms of products, are we looking at things like bulk buying, discounts for products, or is there any kind of way to kind of generate further savings in that way? Or maybe Douglas, you want to add on that too?
Yeah, we think with the actual pilot subsidies itself, we really want to understand the true experiences happening right now, because that is really the research, is how do we actually understand exactly the challenges, the barriers, the bottlenecks that's going on. But we are getting approached, like the electric barbecue company was one of the first emails we got when we launched, saying, hey, we can come to your community, here's a discount code, let's actually get everyone involved. So we want to do that. We want to actually see how we can bring more products to the wider Illawarra region. That's something that the Electrify 2515 pilot team, the community team did before that with the solar rollout. So yeah, hopefully you will see some more things like that come out as a part of the pilot. Saul's got something.
I forgot to mention, even the team, I've had 2 electric bike companies offer discounts on electric bikes if we want, it's not in the plan, but like even because we're now sort of a bit of an icon as a community, there are other things coming to us like that.
And from a Brighte perspective, we have been negotiating and approaching most of the large manufacturers, giving them the opportunity to come to us with various programs and pricing, and so you'll see that throughout the program from time to time that will appear.
Thank you. Ben, maybe you want to answer this one. Someone's asking if they have gas and they switch it off, what happens to their gas supply when it gets switched off? Do you know, will they be charged still for supply? And also there was a question of, do you have to have gas to be part of this?
all right, I might start off by qualifying this by saying I'm not a gas expert, but yes, generally what would happen if you disconnect your gas service, then you would no longer pay a supply charge as part of that. So obviously, contributes to some of the savings you are getting as part of this. No, you don't have to have gas to be a part of this pilot. Obviously, there's plenty of opportunities with getting more efficient appliances on board, and some of the sort of incentives that are being provided here really do make that very appetising. So yeah, no, answer your questions. There's opportunities there for savings, and plenty of opportunities for upgrades.
So I might just touch on that a little bit. So you've got all your electric appliances already, but you want to get a battery, absolutely. You can apply to be part of the program. The selection of that comes down to the research though. As Francis said, we've got different types of homes and different types of scenarios we need to understand from a research point of view. But just to correct a little bit, with the appliances, you need to have a gas appliance to get a subsidy for an electric appliance. So no, you can't get a subsidy to go from my existing old electric cooktop to a new induction one. That's not part of the program.
I'm a little nerdy on this one. So the gas company charges you 80 or 90 cents a day to be connected. So imagine you're down to one last appliance. Like your cooktop, you might be using 10 cents of gas a day to cook your dinner, but you're paying 90 cents a day to keep the connection. It costs you about $100 to $200 to disconnect. They'll send out someone in a shirt that is different logo, same colour. And you can do it yourself, but you're not meant to, and you just turn the cock 90 degrees. That's how it works, and then the gas is off. But if you do it yourself, they continue to charge you the 80 or 90 cents a day, so it's worth calling the guy or gal in the orange shirt. The bigger challenge for Australia is that the Australian Energy Regulator, without consulting Australian households, decided to give the gas companies the right to charge you $1,256, I think that's the number, to come and abolish your gas connection. So I was surprised because we bought a house here, and I was like, I didn't see that in any of the contracts, and it turns out there is no contract with you or the home or the land. This was the Australian Energy Regulator sneakily working against Australia. I'm disgusted because that means we're going to have to spend another $10 billion to get off gas as a nation, give them $10 billion to leave. That doesn't seem right. So Dan Cass and I are trying to figure out how to sue the ACCC, sue the AER. I suspect if we get the populace angry enough, we will win this one just with the threat of pitchforks.
All right, sharpen those pitchforks. I really like this question, and I would like everyone to have a go at answering it. What do you think defines success for this pilot project, and how are we kind of going to measure and work that out? John, do you want to go first?
So for me, this is really finding about all these challenges. So everybody gets something installed, buys something, and then out of that they've got a story. So, everyone's got a story about something went wrong, something that could have been done better. Imagine, aggregating that 500 times and doing it really quickly with a bunch of nerds sitting behind them going, wow, there's a really big spot here that's going to be great if we can solve that one thing, and it's going to make it better. As Francis said, it's the dress rehearsal for 11 million homes. So yeah, at the end of this, we want to have a couple of those really solid changes. And that can be, giving things faster, could be better, and also low cost as well. So that's what I really see as success.
For me, very passionate about battery adoption, and if every single person who has solar on their home today across Australia put a battery on their home tomorrow, most of the problems in the grid would disappear overnight. And so for me, seeing that battery adoption throughout this program would be, for me, a great success.
I'll talk very selfishly from an Endeavour Energy perspective. We're really interested in the data that this trial produces. We've got a lot of smart engineers working in the background, modelling what these things are going to look like in the future. And absolutely, we've done plenty of modelling in the 2515 area to understand the impact to our local energy network. But this is a great opportunity to take that modelling and put it in a real-world scenario. So having such a close-knit community being involved in this really accelerates some of the learnings that we're going to get as part of this pilot.
Success to me looks like I'm still friends with Ben at the end of the project. And that we've made his life easier and Endeavour's life easier, not harder. And I think there's a very good chance, if we do batteries and coordination correctly, that that'll be true. For me, success in Silicon Valley, they call it a lighthouse project. It's the first time you do a thing and it sort of spreads the word to the world. So success for me is that we are the seed in an international movement to electrify that helps the whole world hit its climate targets. So thank you for that.
Thank you. This question, thank you to the person who wrote it and to all the people who have liked it, because I just think this really sums up the beautiful sentiment in our community of, if I am not selected to be a part of the pilot, can I still get a smart device? Can I still participate in the research? Others have asked, how does it work if you want to donate your subsidies? So I think this is wonderful and beautiful, thank you. But maybe, John, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, so it was really interesting. This came up at our first volunteer event, was just people saying, look, I've got no gas left, I just want to be part of this. So look, we're going to look at that and how we can actually bring homes in that are already electrified, get them in with a smart energy device. So look out for an update on that soon. To the second part of the question, yeah, I should have said that, sorry, in my presentation. So if you want to be in this program and you qualify and you are selected, you can actually donate back that subsidy. If you feel like you're in a comfortable enough position that you were going to do this anyway, if you bring that money back into the pilot, that opens up another spot for a low-income home to come in. So actually, it lets us broaden the community and spend our money probably more where it's needed.
Thanks, John. Ben? Now, are we going to be blowing up the grid? Like Saul said, someone's wondering about blackouts. We get a high number of blackouts in the region. A broader question of why the use of home solar and batteries aren't allowed during blackouts. Do you have a response to?
Yes, I do. So there's a few questions there. I'll address the, are we going to blow up the grid one first? The answer is no. Which is, Saul's trying to cause me some trouble here, but no. As I said, there's been plenty of modelling done in the background to actually understand what the theoretical impacts of these changes on our grid will have. Fortunately as well, we have such a diverse network across the Endeavour Energy franchise area that we do have areas that never had gas installed as it was. So obviously there's some learnings there to take to this pilot on how the grid reacts when it is fully electrified. The second one, what was the second part of the question?
Why can't we already use solar batteries?
Solar and batteries. So there's some pretty strict requirements around the ability to backfeed into the network. So I believe some batteries do allow you to what they call island from the network at particular points in time. So what that means is if it is sensed that there isn't a grid supply coming into your home, they will then use a series of switches and isolators and things to make sure that there is no possibility of backfeed onto the network. But as you can appreciate, if we don't have supply on the network, then my teams and the teams at Endeavour Energy, who are pretty dedicated in some of the storm and wind responses that they get involved in, they need to be able to keep safe while they're working on the network. So we need to make sure that none of those batteries are actually backfeeding the network whilst they are working on it. So I think you guys would all appreciate, when there's some storm and wind events, we do occasionally have power outages, but we do provide a very regular and reliable service to the community. And I'm very proud of my teams when we do have those outages, of the emergency response and the speed that they get the communities back online.
Very good. Douglas, if a house has LPG gas, is that part of the program? Are they still able to get off it, or is it just about mains gas?
No, absolutely. Gas is gas. So you're entitled to participate in the program with LPG or mains connected.
All right, there we go. Okay, so Francis touched on this a little bit, but I wondered if anyone else wanted to add to the part about the challenges of involving strata and renters in this process, and it really is, you know, the two kind of areas that are the sticking points for overall household electrification. So do you want to, John, talk about how exactly are we going to be helping strata and also renters?
Yep, so strata absolutely are included. It does come with its complexities though, so we're hoping this program is going to help bring the strata committee together and actually give them, you know, someone that they can turn to, that we can, you know, tie them up together with the right advisors to work through the complexities, especially with the common ground. If you've got common hot water systems that need to go from instant gas to, say, heat pump, can be quite complex. So we're going to try and find the experts in that and work out how to navigate those challenges. And then, of course, you know, the subsidies are going to help by actually giving people the incentives and the motivation to want to move across to all electric. For renters, probably not much more to add to what Francis said. You know, we're going to work with the property managers. We think they're the ones who can actually help get this over the line with the landlords. We've seen a few landlords already apply, which has been really, really good to see. But if you are a renter and you can't get your property manager to buy in, or your landlord to buy in, please still apply, because that's what we want to help with. We want to work out what's actually stopping that from happening, and hopefully get it over the line.
Thank you, and I guess I would like to add to that, as from the advocacy organisation point of view, we are going to be using the data to advocate for bigger regulatory reforms at the state and federal level, so we ensure every renter is included in the home electrification upgrade. So it's not just about the local renters, although that's obviously a priority to try and get them on board. We're going to be using that to advocate for broader support. Saul, everyone here, well maybe not everyone, but a lot of people here are environmentally conscious, and one person has asked, you know, all this upgrading to efficient electric appliances, is this just actually creating more of an environmental problem in terms of taking out appliances, putting new ones in? Do you want to speak a little bit about, you know, the minerals used and the way we recycle and that kind of impact on the environment?
This is a long rabbit hole that we could go down, so I'll try to just
find a short one.
Find a couple of short ones. The average water heater lasts about 12 years, so if you're retiring yours 1 or 2 years early, it doesn't really matter, although I think, honestly, any machine that's burning gas, if you replace it, the avoidance of those fossil fuels is far higher than the avoidance of the energy required to make the appliance. I just weighed every single component of a dead washing machine I had, and it turns out that the dishwashing detergent that you put in your Miele or your Westinghouse once a day, every day for 10 years, is about double the amount of energy as making the whole washing machine. And the same is true for these water heaters and kitchen appliances in relation to the energy that they use every day. So you're in good shape. A lot of people worry about what about the recyclability of the batteries and the solar, etc. Because we've heard of all the problems with recycling. The problems with recycling are mostly the problems with plastic. Two most recycled things in the world are iron and copper. Most metals are 80, 90, 100% recyclable, including lithium. In fact, I heard this morning from Danny Kennedy in the front row that BYD, the battery company, are thinking about how they can be a completely circular economy by 2040. So they'll just be recycling their batteries infinitely by doing recovery of all of the metals in those batteries. So that actually is really the story about all of the things. The average Australian today burns 7,000 kilograms of fossil fuels. It becomes 16,000 kilograms of carbon dioxide that goes in the atmosphere every year. Once you're fully electrified, you will need about 50 kilograms or 100 kilograms of solar panels a year. You will need 50 or 100 kilograms of wind turbine. You will need 50 or 100 kilograms of batteries, but that 300 kilograms will be about 95% recyclable. So instead of throwing 16,000 kilograms or 16 tons of stuff in the atmosphere every year, it will be like 5 to 10 kilograms. So really this is the pathway for the environmentalists, that we not only address emissions, but we make an economy that's really circular based on recycling the metals, because all of these technologies are mostly metals, not plastics.
Thank you. Now, unfortunately, we are getting close to time. Maybe I'll just give this opportunity to see if panelists want to, share one more kind of thing that they're hoping will get learnt, or something you're interested about, or something to share that hasn't been covered already, or if not, just a nice nod. Move on.
Nice nod would be nice, but yeah, no, I just want to thank everyone for being involved. As I said, Endeavour Energy is really passionate about being involved in this pilot. Just speaking from previous roles, I used to be the Digital Innovation Manager at Endeavour, and one of the hardest things to get people on board with innovative projects is to actually want to get on board. So I think that's one of the significant hurdles that this project has already overcome. So I'd like to congratulate you all for that.
After I wrote the big switch, I did a quarterly essay, and the title of that quarterly essay was called "The Wires That Bind," and it's literally the electricity network is the one thing that connects all of Australians, it connects everyone in our community. Like, we are literally neighbours on this network, and I think the thing that really excites me is to learn about how this can build more community trust and build more community as an artifact of also dealing with some of our biggest challenges, cost of living and climate. So I'm really interested in the community building aspects, and honestly, thank you all for being here.
Saul touched on it earlier in terms of the eyes of the world, certainly the eyes of Australia. A lot of interest in this program, a lot of local government authorities already talking to us, wanting to know why we're involved and what we're doing and how we can possibly help them. And if you think about it, there's one federal government, there's 7 state governments, and there's 8,700 postcodes in Australia. When those postcodes are activated and those communities are activated, change happens. That's what makes me excited.
So I think we talked about, how do we define success? So success for me is when this isn't just 500 homes doing it. It's when it's the obvious choice for the 11 million homes. And I don't know why I'm getting...
Thank you for sharing that. Now, I know you probably have a lot more. I see on Slido there is a lot more questions. This isn't the end. This isn't the only opportunity. So besides the clever brains sitting next to me, we also have some other clever brains on the screen. These are your Rewiring Australia Electrify 2515 touch points. They're the ones delivering the project from Rewiring Australia's point of view, and the ones that are going to be available to support you for all your individual questions and any collective questions you might have. We've got John, Elsa, Callum and Jane. Besides being able to speak to them, we've got volunteers as well as the team running drop-in sessions at Thirroul Community Library and Community Centre every Friday for the rest of November. We also have the Coldale Market Store at the end of November, a stall there, so that's another chance to speak. We have a one-to-one online phone booking system that you can book your personal questions or catch up with. So if you head to Electrify 2515 website, you can book in a 30-minute chat with, or you don't have to take the whole 30 minutes, but you can book in a chat with one of the team members to go through your questions there. All of the team is available to help with the application process as well as any questions you have. Brighte's team also has a whole team of customer service representatives ready to help. We don't want you to skip off because we actually have a lot of volunteers wearing Ask Me questions, so you can actually have questions answered tonight. So if you look for one of those team members with a sticker that says Ask Me, please corner them and ask them something really, really awkward, and they will do their best to answer it. We have members from Brighte, from Endeavour, and they're hard to spot because they're wearing their high vis. We have Rewiring Australia staff here as well. And what I didn't mention is Electrify 2515 started as volunteers, and we always had the goal, similar to this pilot, was there's not just helping people in 2515, and some of the volunteers have now established another volunteer outfit called Electrify Illawarra, and it's being spearheaded by one of our most committed and passionate volunteers, Denise. Denise actually couldn't make it tonight, unfortunately, but she is amazing. Anyway, we're hoping to run a whole bunch of other activities outside of 2515 as well, and things like an electrification expo next year, and another range of other activities. So we're looking for volunteers, basically, to help with that process, so we can amplify the benefits and the learnings that we make here to other aspects of our region. But applications, I should have had that up. Sorry, that's the summary of what I just said. Applications are now open. So if you are ready to go, you can apply now. They're open. The first round will be taken by the end of November. So if you're really keen to get into that first 60, apply by the end of November. If you're still mulling it over, that is absolutely fine. You've got it till the end of March next year to apply for the full main rollout. And once again, I just want to say a really, really heartfelt thank you to everybody that's part of the delivery team, everybody that's part of the volunteer team, and everybody that's part of the community. I'm someone who has tried to work on the climate emergency in one way or another for a really, really long time, and I've never felt more optimistic and energized than when I have worked with this community, trying to create something that's tangible and impactful right in our homes. So thank you for coming, and I really, really look forward to working with you for the next 2 years. Thanks again. Find a person to chat to, and we'll talk to you soon.